Hey everybody, just Jesse here, welcoming you back into my garage for another day of accountability and another day in my man cave. I know it's not that awesome, but eventually I would like to have some people over and um, just be accountable to each other and accountable to you guys as well. Today's Friday, May 29th, the year 2020, the year that people don't want to remember, but the year that I am making videos for my production of how I want to be accountable. This is a weird year, but it is a good year because I have been more accountable more days this year so far than I've ever been in my whole entire life. So when other people choose not to remember 2020, 2020 is a good year for me. Today we're going to be dealing with Proverbs chapter 29, verses 2 through 18 mainly, but the whole chapter is a good chapter to read, and I recommend it. The other thing I recommend is a chapter a day in Proverbs. There's enough chapters to go through every day for the month. So I would say if you haven't done that yet, to go ahead and do that and let God fill you with His Spirit that way. It doesn't take very long. The chapters aren't very hard to read, and they're not very long, so I recommend that as well. But today we're going to be talking about the law of picture and how a leader can cause people to either thrive or to groan and not want to be around. So the way that people act is a direct reflection of how the leader that taught them is. So let me say that again. The way people act is a direct reflection of how the leader that taught them is. And so if there's one thing that a follower can't do, it's supersede the leader, because the leader is the cap to their bottle, basically. If the leader was a bottle and if the world was a bottle and the leader was the cap, the leader was the top, you can't go above that. If you're a follower, you're inside the bottle. And I know that's a weird analogy, but it works for what I'm trying to say here. And no one can expect followers to turn out any differently than the leaders, because the leaders obviously teach them. And so followers are followers, and they're like sheep to the shepherd. They follow, and what the shepherd says goes. So also, but in the same case, people are also attracted to a leader that's just like them. And if you can think about it, think back, who's a leader in your life? And does your life match up with theirs on how you want your life to turn out? They're attracted to the same thing. So the question that I have for you is, how can the influence of a good or bad leader affect us? And on a daily level, they can affect us in a few different ways. And I wrote some down. I don't want to mess them up, so I will read them to you. So bear with me as I read how good or bad leaders can affect us. The first way they can affect their followers is in their attitudes. In verse 2, it says, when good leaders rule, people rejoice. And when wicked reign, that's hard to say, when wicked reign, people groan. And I see that every day. I've seen it today, and I know that there's a way to beat that, but you have to have a good leader, and a good leader needs to teach you how to beat that. So if you are a good leader, teach the people around you how to beat the wicked leaders and how to make people thrive instead of groan. The second thing that we see is that they affect the followers' stability. And in verse 4, it talks about when moral leaders rule, they establish justice, and when compromising leaders rule, they tear things down. Like, there's nothing productive that comes from a compromising leader. If somebody's there that's compromising, they're always going to tear the bridge down. There's never going to be any trust. And so that's how they affect the stability, and that's how verse 4 talks about it. But in verse 7, it talks about how good or bad leaders can affect their followers' compassion. Now, good leaders express compassion for the poor, but bad leaders reflect no compassion for anyone. And that is the easiest way to see who is a good or bad leader. How do they treat the people that have less than them? If they're constantly trying to help them, if they're constantly trying to give them a hand up instead of a handout, Even a handout. If they're constantly just trying to uplift people, that is a sign of a good leader. Now, if they have no compassion for anybody but themselves, if they're self-absorbed, then that is the look of a bad leader. Easy, right? Uh, God gives us discernment, but he also gives that to us right there in verse 7. Verse 7 of Proverbs chapter 29 tells us the exact way to find a good leader from a bad leader. Another way that you can see how good and bad leaders affect their followers is they affect their honesty. When leaders pay attention to lies, their followers pay attention to lies. They don't find truth. Once again, their followers can't supersede what the leader does. So if the leader's looking at things that is wicked and deceitful and are a bunch of lies, then guess what? Your followers are going to be doing the same thing. And if you don't think that's true, test it out. Don't test it by looking at lies, but test it by looking at good things. Test it by trying to make people grow rather than make people fall. If you're a leader that is having issues with people, maybe take a look at honesty in your life. That would be verse 12, by the way, in Proverbs chapter 29 talks about that. The last thing that I want to talk about is how the good and bad leaders affect their followers by their vision. Verse 15 talks about how solid vision keeps everyone on track, and chaos reigns wherever vision lapses. So if you're a good leader, you'll see those good leaders will be trying to nudge their followers back on track and get them to go the right direction. But other not so good leaders, bad leaders, just not a leader at all really, they will not even care if you're on the right thing. They'll just be more self-absorbed. In my opinion, that's how a lot of leaders come about. They talk about, look at me, look at me, look at me, look what I have, look what I've done, instead of the big picture on who have you helped. So really, in a world like today, we can be the leaders and have an effect on people's lives. It's all really a matter of who we want to be. Really, I know that I said really a lot, but who do you want to be at the end of the day? Who do you want to portray? Do you want to be a good leader? Do you want to have your followers follow you and succeed? Or do you want to be a leader that's just put in place to just fill a seat? Nobody really follows you. Do we want to strive to be better than our wicked selves? Do we just fall in as a follower? And that would be a follower of someone else. Like, you can't be a leader if you want to follow somebody else. We all need to be leaders, by the way. If we're a revival praying Christian, which all of us are, we're all praying for revival because we know that the truth sets people free, so we should all be praying for that. We have to choose the best leaders to be the best leaders to the least of people. Everybody's looking for guidance in this world, every single person. So we have to be the best leaders to the least of people. That's how you become the best leaders, and that's how leaders cause people to either thrive or groan. Now, which one are you? If you cause people to thrive, good job. You're doing the right thing. I always love to find out those leaders that are really pushing their people, that are pushing them for success and want the best for them and want the best for their followers' families as well. But if you're on the other side and you're just a leader that you can't seem to get anything going for you, nothing's falling into place, people aren't growing around you, take a look at those 5 steps that Proverbs 29 talks about, verses 2, verses 4, verses 7, verses 12, and verses 18. That's attitude, stability, compassion, honesty, and vision. If you don't have those in your life, you'll never become the leader that you want to be. So work on those 5 things and become that leader that's out there to really push people into the right steps in their life, the way that Jesus is pushing us into our right steps into our life. So with that, if this talk has really spoken to you, I'd love to see it. Give me some thumbs ups. Give me some comments. I would love to hear from you guys regarding anything that I've said, if it's good or bad, or if you think I could do anything better. But most importantly, if somebody in your circle needs to hear this, I challenge you, share it with them. Um, Even if you think that they'll think that you're weird, like, people will surprise the crap out of you. Um, all you have to do is reach out, take that step of faith, and let God carry you the rest of the way. He's just asking you to take that step. Lastly, if you haven't subscribed and you like what I'm talking about, I strive to make videos every day, as it is my accountability. And so if you want to be notified of my videos every single day, subscribe and ring the bell. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right, bye.